The Cathedral Builders, From Wooden Dreams to Steel Skies. The electric hum of anticipation vibrated through 47,000 souls as thunder rolled across the Arizona desert. It was the bottom of the ninth inning, 2 outs, bases loaded, and the count stood full. Above Chase Field in Phoenix, something magnificent began to unfold against the darkening sky. The retractable roof, weighing over 9 million pounds of precision-engineered steel and glass, started its slow, majestic dance across the heavens. At first, just a whisper of machinery, then a gentle hum that grew into a symphony of engineering precision. Storm clouds gathered with increasing intensity, but inside this cathedral of steel and technology, the game would continue uninterrupted. This moment represented far more than mere weather protection. It embodied 130 years of American ingenuity, dreams built in brick and steel, and the eternal quest to create the perfect stage for our national pastime. Our guides through history. 3 figures stood in the climate-controlled concourse, watching this mechanical marvel unfold. Sam Morrison, 72 years old, carried the institutional memory of ballpark design in his weathered hands. His career had spanned 5 decades, from the concrete bowl era through the retro revolution to today's technological marvels. Every line in his face told a story of construction sites in blazing summer heat and bitter winter cold, always chasing the perfect sightline and the ideal fan experience. Elena Rodriguez, 38, represented the modern voice of baseball journalism. Growing up under Seattle's concrete kingdom before experiencing the revelation of Field's retractable roof, she understood how ballparks reflected broader changes in American society. Her podcast had become essential listening for anyone seeking to understand the intersection of sports, architecture, and urban planning. Frank Chen, 65, brought the ground-level perspective of someone who had actually operated these magnificent structures. His 4 decades managing stadium operations, from Pittsburgh's cookie-cutter Three Rivers Stadium to the intimate PNC Park that replaced it, gave him unique insight into how different designs actually functioned in practice. "Listen," Sam said, as the roof panels locked into place with a satisfying mechanical thud. "This sound represents the culmination of everything we've learned about building ballparks. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back to when wood was king and fire was our greatest fear." Chapter 1. When Wood Was King and Fire Was Fear, 1890s to 1920s. The story begins not with triumph, but with catastrophe. On May 15, 1894, a seemingly innocent fire ignited beneath the wooden grandstands of Boston's South End grounds during a game between the Beaneaters and Baltimore. What started as a small blaze quickly became an inferno that consumed not only the ballpark, but spread through the Roxbury neighborhood, destroying over 100 buildings and claiming 12 lives. "That fire changed everything," Sam explained, as they walked through Fenway Park's empty corridors at dawn 3 days later. His hand traced the steel framework of the Green Monster. "This wall exists because of lessons learned from that disaster. When John Taylor built Fenway in 1912, steel and concrete weren't just about durability, they were about survival." The Great Roxbury Fire marked the beginning of the end for wooden ballparks across America. Visionary owners like Charles Comiskey in Chicago and Ben Scheibe in Philadelphia embraced the new materials, working with pioneering engineers like Frank Walker of the Osborne Engineering Company to create the first generation of jewel box parks. Elena examined the intricate brickwork around Fenway's entrance. These weren't just sports venues, they were civic monuments. "Exactly," Sam confirmed. Scheibe Park in Philadelphia, which opened in 1909, featured a French Renaissance facade that cost extra money but enhanced the entire neighborhood. These builders understood they were creating structures meant to last centuries. Frank provided the operational perspective. The craftsmanship was extraordinary. Every steel rivet was heated red-hot and hammered into place by hand. The concrete was mixed on-site and poured in sections, with workers smoothing every surface manually. This attention to detail created ballparks with genuine personality. The physical constraints of dense urban neighborhoods forced creative solutions that became beloved features. Fenway's left field wall existed because Lansdowne Street was already there. The Polo Grounds' bizarre horseshoe shape resulted from Manhattan's unforgiving street grid. These weren't arbitrary design choices. They were ingenious adaptations that created the quirky dimensions and features that made each park unique. What we built in this era, Sam reflected, were true cathedrals of baseball. Intimate, idiosyncratic venues that felt like they belonged to their neighborhoods and their cities. Chapter 2. Concrete Cathedrals in the City Grid, 1930s to 1950s. As the Roaring Twenties dawned, the steel and concrete revolution blossomed into a golden age of urban ballparks. These magnificent structures became integral parts of their neighborhoods, woven into the very fabric of American cities. Standing in Wrigley Field's ivy-covered embrace, Elena interviewed multi-generational Cubs fans who spoke of summer afternoons spent under the manually operated scoreboard, the crack of the bat echoing off brick walls. Bill Veeck and Philip Wrigley introduced the ivy in 1937, she noted. They weren't just choosing a plant, they were choosing an identity, telling fans this was a garden where summer stories would unfold. The original Yankee Stadium, built in 1923, established the template for the modern ballpark, with its triple-deck grandstand and massive capacity of over 58,000. Sam explained how this house that Ruth built represented the sport's growing ambitions and cultural significance. Frank shared stories from veteran stadium workers. These concrete cathedrals required armies of maintenance staff. Paint crews worked year-round because you never finished. By the time you reached one end, the other end needed repainting. Electricians maintained the new lighting systems that made night games possible. It was like running a small city. This era witnessed baseball's integration into the broader American experience. The first official Major League night game took place at Cincinnati's Crosley Field in 1935, forever changing the rhythm of the sport. Radio broadcasting booths became essential architectural elements, bringing the game into American homes and creating new forms of shared experience. Yet these ballparks also reflected the social divisions of their time. Many featured segregated seating sections and separate entrances, stark reminders of a divided nation. However, they would also become stages for change, witnessing Jackie Robinson's breakthrough in 1947 and the gradual integration of America's pastime. The builders of these stadiums truly believed they were constructing monuments for the ages, Sam observed. They used materials and techniques intended to last centuries, never imagining the economic and social forces that would eventually make even these seemingly indestructible structures obsolete. Chapter 3. The Suburban Exodus and the Cookie-Cutter Era, 1960s to 1980s. Standing on the north shore of Pittsburgh, looking across the Allegheny River at PNC Park's limestone facade, Frank Chen's eyes weren't seeing the current ballpark. Instead, he gazed at the empty parking lot where Three Rivers Stadium once dominated the landscape. Right there stood the most perfectly engineered, completely soulless ballpark I ever worked in, Frank said, pointing to the vacant space. I managed operations there for 15 years, from 1975 to 1990. It was a marvel of efficiency and a desert of atmosphere. The post-war suburban exodus fundamentally changed ballpark design philosophy. As middle-class families moved to suburbs and automobile ownership became universal, team owners convinced themselves that fans wanted convenience over character. The interstate highway system made suburban stadium sites accessible in ways that downtown locations couldn't match. Sam pulled out architectural drawings on his tablet. Three Rivers represented the logical endpoint of multi-purpose stadium design. When it opened in 1970, it embodied everything Americans thought they wanted: massive parking, suburban accessibility, climate control, and the ability to host both baseball and football. The conversion process was a ballet of logistics. Frank described crews working all night to transform a baseball diamond into a football grid, with seats on rails sliding into new configurations and artificial turf panels covering and uncovering the infield dirt. From a technical standpoint, it was magnificent, he admitted. But compromise is the enemy of excellence. Elena investigated the economic forces driving this trend: municipal financing schemes, threats of team relocations, and the growing influence of television revenues. Cities like Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, and Seattle built nearly identical concrete bowls, prioritizing capacity and parking over intimacy and character. The Astrodome in Houston was called the eighth wonder of the world when it opened in 1965, Sam noted. Judge Roy Hofheinz genuinely believed he was creating the future of sports entertainment. They even tried to grow natural grass under the translucent dome panels, but when the grass died from lack of sunlight, they invented AstroTurf. Frank's operational experience revealed both the benefits and costs. These stadiums solved weather problems and provided consistent playing conditions, but they disconnected teams from their urban roots. Fans drove in, watched the game, and drove home. There was no reason to linger, no neighborhood to explore. By the 1980s, attendance was declining at many cookie-cutter stadiums despite successful teams. The Pirates won 2 World Series while playing at Three Rivers, but fans increasingly chose to watch from their comfortable living rooms rather than endure the sterile stadium experience. Chapter 4. The Retro Revolution, Bringing Baseball Home, 1990s to 2000. The revolution arrived in Baltimore in 1992, and its name was Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Standing in the ballpark's empty concourse at sunrise, with the historic B&O warehouse looming behind them like a red brick cathedral, the trio contemplated how one building had changed everything about American ballpark design. This warehouse was supposed to be demolished, Sam explained, running his hand along the weathered brick. Conventional wisdom said it was an obstacle, a relic, taking up valuable land. But Janet Marie Smith and Larry Lucchino saw something different: authenticity that couldn't be manufactured. Elena examined the building's industrial architecture, noting how it had been seamlessly integrated into the ballpark design. Smith understood that this warehouse represented 90 years of Baltimore history. Tear it down, and you lose something irreplaceable. Frank pointed toward the right field wall, just 318 feet from home plate. Keeping the warehouse created massive operational challenges. The building sits only 60 feet beyond the right field fence. Any architect will tell you that's impossible. You need space for concourses, concessions, emergency access. So they embraced the constraint instead of fighting it, Sam continued. The warehouse became part of the playing field's character. Utah Street, running between the ballpark and warehouse, became a pedestrian promenade lined with food vendors and historical displays. Camden Yards proved that modern ballparks could combine nostalgic aesthetics with contemporary amenities. The brick facade, steel framework, and intimate seating bowl all referenced baseball's golden age while incorporating computer-designed sightlines, wider concourses, and luxury boxes that generated crucial revenue streams. The genius was solving the fundamental problem of the cookie-cutter era, Sam explained. Fans wanted ballparks that felt special, unique, connected to their city's identities. Camden Yards proved you could achieve that while meeting modern standards for comfort and profitability. The success was immediate and profound. Camden Yards drew over 3.5 million fans in its first season, nearly doubling the Orioles' previous attendance. More importantly, It catalyzed development throughout downtown Baltimore, creating an entertainment district that thrived year-round. Within 5 years, cities across America were racing to build their own retro classic ballparks. Cleveland's Jacobs Field, Colorado's Coors Field, San Francisco's Pacific Bell Park, all borrowed elements from the Camden Yards template while adding their own unique features. Frank reflected on the operational improvements. These new ballparks had the charm of classic venues with none of the infrastructure headaches. Modern electrical systems, adequate storage space, efficient crowd flow, all hidden behind facades that celebrated baseball's heritage. Elena noted the broader implications. Camden Yards didn't just change ballpark design, it changed how cities thought about sports facilities as economic development tools. Instead of suburban locations with massive parking lots, cities realized ballparks could anchor downtown redevelopment projects. Chapter 5. Commanding the Sky, The Age of Retractable Roofs, 2000 to present day. Back at Chase Field, as the desert heat shimmered off the parking lot even at 10 in the morning, the necessity of retractable roof technology became immediately apparent. The temperature gauge read 97 degrees and climbing toward what would be a 115-degree afternoon. "This is why retractable roofs exist," Sam said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Baseball is a summer game, but summer in Phoenix, Houston, or Seattle creates challenges that even the most nostalgic purist must acknowledge." Frank's operational expertise took center stage as they entered the ballpark. Chase Field's roof uses a cable-stayed system with 4 panels that telescope over each other. The entire opening process takes 4.5 minutes, controlled by computers that monitor wind speed, temperature, and structural stress. There are backup systems for every critical component. You never want 50,000 fans trapped under a malfunctioning roof. The engineering challenges were unprecedented. Sam pointed to the structural details visible throughout the ballpark. The architects had to solve problems that didn't exist in traditional ballpark design. The roof support columns couldn't interfere with sightlines. The mechanical systems required enormous amounts of space. Most challenging, the ballpark had to feel open and airy even when the roof was closed. Elena examined the translucent panels that allowed natural light to filter through even when the roof was sealed. The goal was to create an outdoor experience in a climate-controlled environment. The technological evolution continued with each new retractable roof ballpark. Toronto's Sky Dome, which opened in 1989, proved the concept could work for baseball. Houston's Minute Maid Park, completed in 2000, featured more sophisticated insulation and quieter operation. Seattle's T-Mobile Park used a unique umbrella design that covered the seating areas while leaving the field open to natural elements. Frank detailed the operational complexities. Managing a retractable roof ballpark requires completely different skills than traditional venues. We monitored weather conditions constantly, making roof decisions hours before games. Opening or closing the roof during play requires coordination with umpires, television broadcasters, and safety personnel. The costs were enormous, but justified by the results. Chase Field's total construction cost was $354 million, with the retractable roof accounting for roughly 20% of that budget, Sam confirmed. But the investment pays dividends in attendance, scheduling flexibility, and revenue generation. The Diamondbacks have never had a rainout. As they experienced the roof closing process firsthand, watching the massive panels slide across the desert sky with mechanical precision, Elena reflected on the broader implications. This represents humanity's eternal desire to control our environment, to create perfect conditions for the activities we value. The newest generation of retractable roof ballparks incorporates even more advanced technology. Globe Life Field in Arlington, which opened in 2020, features translucent ETFE panels that provide natural lighting while blocking heat, with a roof that can close in under 12 minutes. The next generation will likely feature fully automated roof systems that respond to weather conditions without human intervention, Sam predicted. Solar panels integrated into roof structures will generate clean energy. Advanced materials will make roofs lighter and more efficient. Frank added the crucial perspective. But technology is just a tool. The fundamental challenge remains creating spaces that serve both the game of baseball and the communities that support it. Retractable roofs solve the weather problem, but they don't automatically create the magic that makes ballparks special. Epilogue: The Eternal Quest. As the storm passed and the roof began to open again, revealing stars appearing one by one in the washed, clean desert sky, the three friends reflected on their journey through ballpark history. We've traveled from wooden grandstands that could burn down in an afternoon to technological marvels that command the sky itself, Elena observed. Each generation solved the problems of the previous era while creating new challenges for the next. Sam's voice carried the weight of his decades in the profession. What we've been doing the whole time is trying to make places where you can see a game in a way that lifts you. Good sightlines, seats that bring you close, spaces where strangers laugh and celebrate together. We're building joy with structure. Frank nodded, thinking of all the ballparks he'd helped operate. The best stadiums, no matter their era, have always been those that serve both the game and their communities. They bring people together, rain or shine, creating shared experiences that transcend the final score. As the crowd roared at a game-ending double play, the sound echoing perfectly off the ballpark's acoustic design, Elena smiled. Most people will never learn the name of the person who placed the last bolt in this roof, or drew the first blueprint for Fenway's Green Monster. But when they sit in their seats and look up as these panels move, they feel the sum of a century of trying to make a better home for the game that keeps us together. The evolution of ballpark design continues, with each new stadium building upon the lessons of the past while embracing the possibilities of the future. From wooden stands to steel cathedrals to sky-commanding technological marvels, the quest remains the same, creating the perfect stage for America's pastime, where generations can gather to witness the timeless drama of baseball unfold beneath ever-changing but always protective skies. In the distance, thunder rolled again. But inside Chase Field, the game continued, sheltered by human ingenuity and sustained by an enduring love for the sport that has shaped American culture for over a century. The cathedral builders had succeeded in their ultimate goal, ensuring that no storm, no matter how fierce, could stop the eternal rhythm of baseball.